Hello everybody and welcome to our tutorial on how to model a AT4 rocket launcher and add the effects also afterwards. I will be doing the modelling and texturing, lighting and rendering segment, and my friend Charlie will be doing the effects for the actual firing of the rocket launcher. So to start off with, you want to open up your Houdini. I'm in Houdini 16. You want to go to File, New, and make a new project, and we'll call this AT4. Right, so now that we've done that, we've got our new project. We want to get our reference image, so find your reference image online. This is my one. I'm going to be using this to basically sculpt around the general shape of it. And yeah, so bring that into your textures folder onto your project. Once you've done that, we want to go into our perspective tab up here, set our view to the right viewport. So now we're viewing from the right. Now you want to press D on your keyboard, open up the background tab, go down to the right tab, and in the disk file open up our reference image. And as you can see, it's brought in the reference image in the background there. So now from here we can basically begin to start building our geometry. So what you want to do is go up to the Create tab up here and bring in a tube, and just press Enter to bring that into the center of the world. Now we want to rotate this 90 degrees so it's facing sideways, and then we want to scale this down to match the size of the rocket launcher. Doesn't have to be exact, but you want it to be at least pretty close. So let me just get this as close as possible. There we go. Now we want to scale it out to fit the length of the rocket launcher. There we go. Like I said, it doesn't have to be exact. There's a little gap at either side, but we want the basic length of it. So from here we are going to be quickly going back into our perspective view. As you can see, it's the right length and everything, but it's not too smooth around the edges here. So in order to get rid of that, we want to click into the tube object one we've made, and up in the parameters section here we'll be raising the columns from 12 to 50, and as you can see, it's made it a lot smoother. It's added a lot more divisions so that geometry isn't as jagged. We will be coming back to this columns tool, so make sure you keep an eye on this. But yeah, bring that up to 50, and then you're ready to move on to the next section. Right, so now what we want to do is add some thickness to this rocket launcher. We want to have an inner ring so we can actually start making some relative shapes what kind of resemble the actual rocket launcher. Right, so we have our tube 1 here. We want to basically copy and paste this, so Control C, Control V, place that beside it. Now what we want to do in tube 2, we want to set the radius scale, this option here. You get to it by double clicking it. You put that to 0.4, and don't worry that the whole thing shrinks. What we do from here is we bring in a merge node, put that in the middle, and then we connect them up to the merge node, and then we output, and you can see here that's given us basically two cylinders, all the same length and everything, but the one in the middle is just slightly smaller than the one on the outside. Now what we want to do after this is connect this area here, what's filled with nothing, that little area here. So in order to do that, we need to bring in a poly bridge, which should be up here. So go to your polygon tab, and before you click anything, we need to go into this tab here and make sure it's set to edges. So you set to edges, and then you select the edge of the inner circle, and then you shift and double click the rest to highlight the entire ring, and then you press poly bridge, and then it says at the bottom, now select the bridge destination polygon. So now we're selecting the outer bridge, so we shift click and then shift double click the one beside it, and now they're both selected, and we press enter. Now it comes up with this kind of jumbled up mess, but you see the poly bridge has been brought into our scene, and to get rid of this mess you just click reverse winding, and there you go. It's completely filled in the areas, so it doesn't look as nasty anymore. Just basically repeat the same process for this side, and we'll be ready for the next part. Okay, so once you've completed that, you should have something that looks along the lines of this. 2 poly bridges in your scene, and either end of your tube should have complete bridges built over them. So there's no holes in it anywhere on the tube at all. So now what we want to do is we want to start adding some detail into this thing, and we'll start with the frontal, I'm not sure what to call them, but I guess they're like disc shaped things, and this cone on the back. So we'll start off with those. We're going to need to go into our perspective first of all, zoom out, and we will come out of our tube object 1, which I recommend that we call like rocket body or something, just so we can keep track of it. And I also recommend that you save often. I've already saved twice because you never know if it crashes or not. Right, so onto it, we need to bring in a new tube. So once again, just press enter. We want to rotate it 90 degrees, like go through all the steps we did last time. But this time, we want to click into it, and we want to bring the columns down to 6, I believe. Yes, 6. So we got that kind of shape, like a hexagon kind of shape. So we have that around it. Now what we want to do is we want to scale the object down until it obviously fits around our thing, and obviously the translate coordinates for each thingy are different, so let's copy and paste the coordinates between the two. They're different because in the reference image we had to move the geometry around a little bit to match it up, but no worry, now they are completely synced up with the same coordinates. So go back into your tube object 1, which will be your new thing if you've changed your the name of your original geometry. Now what we want to do is go into our right view, so now we can see where we need to place this and how big it needs to be. So we'll shift it along. It's roughly about the right size. Let's make it exact just to be sure. There we go. Obviously it doesn't matter if there's a little bit here or a little bit off here. It's as long as it looks similar, it's fine. Alright, we come back out of this into our perspective view, and obviously it doesn't look too right since let's make sure that these are all equal, sorry. Oh, that's a little too small. Let's turn this up to 4. Let me go back a bit. There we go. Alright, yeah, so we were fine here. Alright, so yeah, we've got this this shape, but obviously it's not contacting the actual edges of it. So in order to fix that, we go into our tube object, and now what we want to do is bring in a poly extrude. Place that underneath our tube 1 and connect it up to the left input, and click the output. So now we've got that. What we want to do is we want to increase the distance quite a little bit, maybe to about -0.1, yeah, about there, and then scale it down until it touches the inside of the actual thing. So let me come out of my tube object, and I'll scale it down. There you go. So we've got that shape, and hopefully, since we've got 2 layers on the inside, it shouldn't be going through your central cylinder, so that should be completely clear, but it's only going through the outer one. So you might be thinking, obviously there's a problem since there's no geometry actually around it, and simple way to fix that is to do what we did last time with a poly bridge. So bring in another, oh sorry, not there yet. We need to select in the edges first. So we've selected that edge, and we go up to polygon, poly bridge, then we select this edge. Oh, I might have to do it this way. Okay, bear with me. There we go. Right. So now that we've got a poly bridge on that, that structure's basically done. It should be, if we come out of it, completely in contact, so there's no holes in any of it. So we've got that shape basically done on the end there. Now what we need to do is go back to our right viewport, and from here we can begin work on the back cone. Right, so from that point, I wanted to note before we continue, I made it a little too small in the previous clip, so make sure that you keep on referring back to your reference image. That is what it's there for, and keep on making sure that it's about the right size. Yeah, so in the last clip it was just a little bit too small, so make sure you scale that up to fit the thing. I've called it the rocket front now, and also I've basically gone ahead and skipped the process, what we've already done a million times already, making a cylinder, moving it along, and making its columns go from 12 to 50 so it's smooth. So what we want to do is we want to basically make this back cone here. So in order to do that, we need to go to our point selection. So as you can see, all the vertices have appeared up here, and you don't want to do this in your right viewport because it can screw up the geometry, because it doesn't interpret your scaling and all that right. So I would say select all of the points, or rather all the back points in the thing, and then go to the perspective viewport. If you press Control F while hovering over the viewport, it will take you straight to the object you're looking at, or you have selected rather. So what we want to do is if you press Control 2, that will bring up all the different viewports we have, and that will allow us to see, just using these two, how close we're getting to the back cone. We might want to move this along a little bit. Here we go. So here we go, we've made the general shape. The picture, I believe, is a little bit off, so the reference image isn't too helpful, but yeah, you just want to kind of fit it to the back of it. But we've basically got that. Now we want to make sure in our perspective that the inner part of the cone is contacting the rest of the rocket launcher. So we'll want to scale that down until we can see it clip with this ghosted version of the rocket launcher body, which it has just there, if you can see there. It want to make sure that our soft radius stays the same, and yeah, as you can see, it's clipped through all of that. And if we come out of if we press Control 1, it'll take us back to our perspective viewport. On Mac it will probably be Command 1, but yeah, as you can see, we've made the front half of the cone, and we'll now move on to extruding the outer ring to bring it back to make basically what we have at the front there, but on the back here, but even bigger. Right, if we're going to begin working on this extrude, we need to first of all hide our rocket rear so we can see what we're doing. And using this measurement line here, we're going to go up to our polygon tab and select the edge loop tool, and then place an edge loop on the outer rim of that, and then there's none inside, so what we want to do is we want to go back up to our cursor, even go all the way out of it, select the edge loop tool again. Oh sorry, no, you want to go back into your rocket body, with the edge loop tool selected. Yep, there we go. Now we want to use the same method here. Scroll inside, place it as close as you can to the measurement line. So now we have basically a line we can use to manipulate all this geometry outside right here without affecting anything over here, and we'll use this to make the cone shape on the back. So what you want to do is go to your edges, your points, and we want to select everything on the back here. Now we want to go Control 3. There we go. Yep, that bring up our right viewport and our perspective at the same time. And now we want to. This crashed on me last time, so I would recommend you save, just in case. And what do you know? It crashed immediately after me saying that, so I had to do this off screen. So basically, what you wanted to do is select all of these points and scale them up until you reach the about the size of your reference image, and make sure that they're touching around about the back of where the rocket launcher ends. And come back out of that. We want to show our rocket rear again, so we can see our cone. And now what we'll basically want to do is go back into our normal view and bring the front of the rocket launcher, copy and paste that all the way to the back, and we want to bring it as far back as possible so we can get that. Oh, we want it back there actually, and we want to scale it up, and then we want to go a bit further on the y-axis. Obviously, it might be better to keep an eye on the reference image, what you can see of it at least. That's about the right size. Make sure it's right to the back. And nearly. There we go. Alright, so bring that underneath this. We call it rocket rear. I guess just rocket rear hex. And we're going to this. I'm going to go to the poly extrude that we did ages ago. Obviously on this copy and pasted one. And we want to make sure we can see it. And we want to bring that in a little bit. Hopefully, if we go back to our normal view now, we'll be able to see how much space we got to work with. That's a bit too thick, so we'll just keep on going with trial and error. So about there. Yeah, so about 0 or minus 0.075 is about what we want it at. Because then when we go back to our OBJ, you'll see that it's pretty much lined up. If we can, we want to try and move it the tiniest bit. Let's try and figure out which one it is. Is it this one? Okay, that's the scale tab. Never mind. It's this one I want. Okay, we'll go down to the 0.001 or 0.001 even. We can move it the tiniest amounts. That's going up. It's a scale tab again. There we go. Alright, that's the right one we want. So we want to be able to move it back so it's like just over the line. So yeah, about how we had it was fine. We've got a few holes here. We can fix that by if we go to our point selection, we can oh, why is it on that? It should be point selection only. Give me a second. That was edges, points. There we go. So shift click or shift and drag a box over all these inner points here. Make sure you're not selecting any on the back, because dragging a box over it just gets everything what you capture. Like I've captured 3 here, which I didn't mean to. You hold control and drag a box over them and it will get rid of them. Just check for any more. Nope. That's it. So now what we can do, I'm going to save again because I know scaling obviously is a bit of a problem when I'm recording. So save again, and we want to bring this down just so it covers up that tiny little gap, and there you go. That should be the back done. So we've got the basic shape there. So far it's looking alright. We've got the cone around the back where the rocket fumes and effects would come out later, and the rocket itself would come out the front. Right, so now we want to move on to the actual body and the detail. So if we go into our perspective, sorry, no, not our perspective, our right viewport, and I just noticed that we have a little issue here. It's not contacting that. Drag it back a little bit, or rather, if we can drag it in the middle, and we can scale it out a little bit just to fill in these little anomalies. How's that looking? I think it's about right. Yep. Right. Okay, so now what we want to do is go back to our thingy, right viewport. Let's hide everything, or just the body really. And now let's see, we got a box here, another little box here, just a few indents and stuff what we can do. We don't want to go crazy with this. I'm not going to do every single little strap, but I'm just trying to design a general feel for it. Right, so now what we want to do is basically start working on, let's say, these 2 boxes and all the little details. So join me back for the next segment and we'll cover those. Okay, so now that we've basically covered the body structure, now we're going to start working on these boxes. So let's bring a box into the scene, press enter. Let's go into our perspective view. Let's rotate it around. Right, now what we want to do is we want to scale this down, and the usual fitting it to the reference image, but we need to get it down to a reasonable size first. Let's do Control 3, and then let's try and align it with this box. Now what I'll do is I'll go through the basic process of creating this, and then it's basically going to be the same process over and over for each detail. So I'll go through it once, and then you guys can do it in your own time, as otherwise we'll be here for 3-4 hours. Alright, so now that we've basically got the box in place, we want to try and just get to the right scale. Let's get down there. Let's go across a bit. Alright, so we can see that we got the box there now. Make sure it's not clipping through the center cylinder. Now from this reference image I can see that it starts off quite it's a hard cutting edge right at the back, like a right angle, and at the front it's beveled a bit. So what we want to do is first of all, let us go into our edge tool. Select this edge here, go up to polygon, and then poly bevel, and then what that will do, hang on, hang on, I need to select the cursor first, and then we go into poly bevel, and then we get to decide how strong of a bevel we want it to be. So let's put quite a few divisions on it. Let's make it round. I think maybe about 8 divisions, and then maybe about 0.3. That should be about, yeah, as we can see on the reference image, only a tiny bit is coming out, and that's basically following the shape of it. So we've basically got that box there already. You don't have to worry about texturing all that, we'll be doing that after Charlie's section. So that's basically it. That's how you bevel. It's just like doing the you know, the usual like extrude or the bridge, sorry, and the edge loop. So yeah, now I'm going to go on to create a load of little details, basically using this technique. I'm not sure there's going to be any details that you can't use this technique to create. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Right, so I've basically gone through and added all these little minor details. It's mostly stuff I've already shown you, like I said. It's just, you know, like here is a tube with the end caps turned on, or actually turned off. What I did here is I just put a bridge, poly bridge between the two sides, and just cut out the rest, what was inside of it. So it's all techniques we've done prior. So you should be able to make all these details, and yeah, these were just as I was showing you just before, these are beveled, and none of them are coming through the actual pipe, so that's important, so we can actually get the simulation right. And that's basically it for the modelling part. I'm not sure what else there is to it other than that. We've got some nice looking details here. Obviously it's not too complex, and it's not 100% accurate to the actual AT4 rocket launcher, but you know, it's a simple model. What if once we come to texturing it and the effects are added in Charlie's segment, it will look a lot nicer, and could likely be used in any portfolio pieces or anything you had in mind. So thank you for watching the first part of a very long tutorial. So I appreciate you watching, and I will see you when you return for the texturing, lighting and rendering segment.